In fact, what happened in South Africa, when I talked to a certain journalist and I was asking her why exactly people are fighting, and she told me that there's a taxi driver who was carrying a Nigerian, was carrying drugs. So when this Nigerian guy, when this South African differed with this Nigerian who was carrying drugs on why he's selling drugs to the youth, these Nigerians called their fellow Nigerians and they beat this taxi driver to death. That is why in that particular town, South Africans began retaliating and fighting for the sake of the driver who was their compatriot who was killed.
The recent xenophobic attacks in South Africa have rendered many African investors in the South African country losing their property to either burning or looting. Kenyans last evening were asking for compensations for their compatriots in South Africa who have lost their property through burning or looting. We're in the streets of Nairobi to ask Kenyans their opinions in this regard.
The first thing, it's very sad that black people are fighting against each other. They are same people, we are same color, we have no reason at all to fight. Despite all our differences, there is nothing that should make us fight by all standards. Number two, when you follow up on that case, exactly what is happening in South Africa, at one time you would agree with the South Africans because you cannot allow people to come to your country and they dictate to you everything. For example, there's a part there called South Beach in Durban where Nigerians are so many. When a South African go there, an ordinary South African, they'll ask him, what are you doing here? And those are the provocations that even if it happens in Kenya here, it will bring the same reprisal effect because people will still fight. In fact, what happened in South Africa, when I talked to a certain journalist and I was asking her why exactly people are fighting, and she told me that there's a taxi driver who was carrying a Nigerian, was carrying drugs. So when this Nigerian guy, when this South African differed with this Nigerian who was carrying drugs on why he's selling drugs to the youth, these Nigerians called their fellow Nigerians and they beat this taxi driver to death. That is why in that particular town, South Africans began retaliating and fighting for the sake of the driver who was their compatriot who was killed. So one thing I would only ask Africans that we are now going to a global community. We must make sure that we live within the traditions and the norms of the people that we find there. You cannot come to my house and you take my father and you want to be the head of that family. I will fight you. So the unnecessary provocation is not important. But what is going on in South Africa is a big problem that we have to condemn, all of us.
Now, as a Kenyan, I will condemn it because it's not the right way to resolve the issues or maybe the pain that they are going through. I understand that they have pain because like living in your own country and you understand that maybe the 80% of the infrastructure or people doing business are foreigners and you are there, it will pain you in a way that you will want to find a solution, on a lasting solution. But the way the South Africans are taking things in their hands by maybe killing other foreigners like Kenyans, we are always we are together with our Kenyans who are there, who are suffering. But we want to say this, even if they are in pain, let them look for another way, a civilized way of handling this. They can either do it through the government negotiation, and maybe they have so many ways of doing which is civilized, rather than killing people, looting people, because at the end of the day it will also affect their countries. They have their people in other countries, like they have their people in Kenya, they have their people in other countries like West Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, and they will face the same thing they are doing to other people. Like yesterday I found out that the ShopRite, which has the origin from South Africa, also faced the same challenge in Nigeria and Ghana.
It is sad that it has got to that point where they must use force. But again, as a Kenyan, an African, what they're doing is that's okay. Yes, because there's no way a whole street can have shops by foreigners, owned by foreigners. You know, they also need jobs. So if that is the only way they can use to get jobs, to get to equally get capital to invest in the country, that is okay. Let them send them away, let them get the jobs, because there's no way an African country can be controlled and run by whites like it's being done in South Africa. So what they're doing is just fine. Like I say, it is sad that it's gotten to that point. It is so sad. So I do not want to approve that they should kill, use fire, like force. But if that is the only way they can use, maybe they've tried all the other better ways, maybe through legislation or something else. But if they can come with a way of getting their grievances answered, then it's okay.
Kama Wakenya wame-investi huko, there are some people investing in Kenya. So if there are some problem, the government they should sort. If there are arrange ama kwa upupi, kama kuna mali kwa huko mingi ya Wakenya wanaweza rudisha Kenya na waanjili watu na watu wafanye kazi, kama wanaweza kuwa wametawala hiyo inji kulingana vile nasikia wakielezea wengine kwa TV. So must ni wafanye issues na government, wasuluhishe mambo, kama ni Wakenya warudi kwao, wambaki kwa inji yao.
But what is happening in South Africa has really raised a lot of question. What is there? What could happen? You know, before big things happen, these small things must happen. So what we are seeing in the TV that is happening in South Africa is something that my mind can't conceive. And I urge the African nation to come together so that they can square out this issue of xenophobia. Because whatever is happening there, if you try to look at the history, if you try to look at the history of South Africa, it is not different with what the South African were doing back then when they were fighting for their freedom. It should not be repeated, because if you don't learn from the history, then we are going nowhere as African nation. And I can urge fellow Kenyans that are in South Africa, if the environment is not conducive for them to do the business, they can just come to Kenya and start from small, and they will grow.